Hi, and welcome to what I hope could be a weekly question and answer session with kayaking tips. I thought this could be a really fun way to get answers to quick questions that maybe might be hard to find online, or maybe there's just it's all about preference. And so I can tell you what I've found and what friends of mine and other fellow paddlers and instructors have found. I thought I'd try to do one question a week, but when I posted it on Instagram on Friday, there were many really good questions and I had a hard time picking one. So I'm just going to try to run through them all very quickly. The first one, pnwcole, he asks, how do I find good places to kayak? I'm not sure where you're located, but if you happen to be in the US, there's a lot of really great applications out there to find great places to launch and paddle. Paddling.net has an application that is called Launch Sites, and on your mobile device, if you get it up and running, it shows you lots of different launch spots around the country, and if you click on each one, you actually get information on each one. If there's parking available, if there's porta potty, if it's far away from you, etc. I'd say I'm sure there's other applications like this in the rest of the world. I just haven't used them because this one has been great for us. And then the very best way to learn about paddling spots is to join a club or reach out to any club, and you can do it through Facebook, through Meetup, etc. And go paddling with people that go there often, because they will be able to tell you things they know about the weather, things they know about the current, or if it's whitewater paddling, you should never go and try something out by yourself. Find a club first and then go with an experienced bunch of paddlers so they can show you the way down for the first time. You should not do it on your own. All right. Mila Layton asks, what is the best way to use the paddle when rolling? This is an interesting question because really there is no right way or best way to hold the paddle. Different types of rolls ask for you to hold the paddle in a very different position. What does matter a lot is for the blade of your paddle to be flat on the water at all times, so that you could either pry on the water's surface or have a little bit of a climbing angle, so if you're sweeping in any direction, the paddle will not dive on you. Now, that goes for the Euroblade, but it also applies for the Greenland stick. The thing about the Greenland stick is because it is symmetrical on both sides, it's very forgiving, and it'll most of the time orient itself as you're doing your roll. But in terms of how to hold the paddle, there is no wrong way, because you can go for an extended paddle roll in which you're holding one side of the paddle. You can also do an extended roll with the Euroblade so that you have more of a lever. Otherwise, you can do a roll holding on to the paddle the same way you would when you're paddling. And lastly, it's good to practice even doing rolls with just half a paddle or pieces that are even shorter than that. So there is no right way to hold it. But always remember, that blade has to be flat on the water. Elkeen Savannah asks, do you encourage feathering the paddle for beginners? So this question is always answered with preference. Older paddlers got used to paddling with a very high feather. Younger paddlers sometimes feather their blades a little bit. Some claim it's easier on their wrists for when they go to take their stroke, and if you're doing a correct stroke technique, you wind up having a better catch if you have a little bit of feather. But when people are learning, especially when you're learning maneuvers such as bracing or rolling, having no feather at all is very helpful, because your blade is exactly in the same position on both sides. So if you're doing bracing and you're falling to either side, you don't have to move the paddle and try to remember, oh wait, oh there it is. It's always going to be ready for you. Same thing with rolling. If you're rolling on either side, you know that without having to twist your wrist, the blade will sit flat on the water. So I would recommend starting with 0 feather and then trying different feathering angles, because one of the things that I'm trying to do is whenever I switch paddles, which happens often with other paddlers, because either I want to try a new blade or they want to try one of the new blades by GearLab, whatever, I try to learn whatever feather angle they have. I think it's very useful if for some reason you put the paddle together, it's very windy and you just need to get out of somewhere, and you're not going to go and look for the perfect angle. You put it together, whatever angle you have, and you paddle away. Just get used to learning how to paddle by feel more than knowing, oh wait, no, it has to be right 45, otherwise I don't know what I'm doing. So maybe to begin, recommend it at 0 feathering, and then as you progress, learn to use different feathering angles. Biotrek asks, what is the best camera for kayak photos and videos? Once again, I don't think there's a best camera. I have a good friend, Jorge, who has a nice plastic bag cover thing for his digital SLR, so he gets wonderful photos out on the water, but he's taking a bulky camera with him. I have other friends that shoot with those waterproof Nikons or Olympus cameras, and they take nice photos, but a lot of times the video is just nowhere near the quality of other cameras like the GoPro or other action cameras. There's lots of them out there. Sony makes them. Personally, what I like best is I take a small digital SLR for whenever we have landed somewhere, and I have the SL1 by Canon, which is very, very light. I have a 24 millimeter pancake lens on that camera, and it's extremely light. The battery lasts a very long time, and it's great for just shooting things when you are launching, when you're landing, when you're having lunch or taking snacks, and it's very light, easy to put in your day hatch. But when I'm on the water, I only use GoPros, because what I like doing is I just let the video run, and then I find still shots within that video, because I found that if I'm sitting there trying to capture photos while we're doing something, we're playing in the waves, whatever, I never catch exactly the right moment. But if I just film at the highest possible video setting, then a lot of times I'm able to freeze frame the video and get some really nice action shots. Let's see. Diksey asks, how safe are manual inflatable PFDs? And what is a great paddle PFD that isn't so hot and uncomfortable? Now, for manual inflatable PFDs, yes, they're great. They can be stored away. They don't really bother you. But you always have to think, one of the reasons you have your PFD on is if you capsize, if you hit your head or something, if you're unconscious for some reason, you know that the PFD is going to be of help trying to keep you afloat. With an inflatable one, if something happens and you are unconscious, you will not be able to pull that and have it inflate. So I know many people, what they do, many paddlers, is for regular paddling or when they're playing in waves or whatever, they'll use real PFDs, and then if they're racing or if they're doing things that they want to be as light as possible, then they use inflatable ones. I know a lot of stand-up paddlers also use inflatable ones. Once again, for stand-up paddling, unless you're running rivers or you're surfing, I feel like an inflatable one might be just fine, and then you can be cool. Now, I do want to mention there are many PFDs out there. For example, this is the sooooo rocker, and what they did is they pushed all of the padding to the very bottom. So when you have it on, your arms and your chest and your back are very free. Not only does it give you motion, but all of it is exposed so that you're not as hot. The problem with this one is that it has the pockets only in one place. So if you're doing self-rescues, you'll have all of your stuff here on your chest, and it makes it a little bit hard to get into the boat. That's why recently I've switched to a Kokatat, which one is it called? Oh, I can't remember exactly the model, but the Poseidon. And what I really like about that one is it has pockets all over the place, but it does cover my back a bit more. So in the summer, it can get hotter, and then I just roll and dip myself in the waters, cool off. Now, at the same time, my wife has this other one by sooooo as well. I believe hers is called a Cruiser, and many other PFDs out there, what they do is they'll have the padding up high, and then your back will have mesh fabric. so that in the summer it winds up being quite a bit cooler. They also, what they've done is they put mesh in different places so that you don't feel like it's on you the entire time. And pretty much all the brands right now are doing this. If you go into the stores, you will find some that are geared towards just touring or enjoying yourself all day long, and they have mesh in as many places as possible so that you can stay cool in the summer. All right, Travel Badger. What's the best footwear for versatility and safety? So this one also comes down to preference. I really like booties. I like neoprene booties. In the summer as thin as possible, in the winter as thick as possible and taller. I feel like they keep my feet warm, insulated, and they will allow for a thick rubber sole so that you can step on rocks. They don't have the best traction usually, but there are new models. I recently saw my friend, fellow instructor, David McPherson from Kayak, Connecticut, sporting some really nice Keens, and they were Keen booties, and it seemed like they had some good traction on the bottom. I know a lot of whitewaters love using Astral sneakers, and advise people to stay away from, with sneakers, is big loops on shoelaces on their sneakers. And the reason for that is not so much in other styles of kayaks, but a lot of times for sea kayaks, the foot pegs, it's very easy to get your shoelaces stuck on them. And true, if you pull on a shoelace, it should come off. But if you're a novice, if you're not used to being upside down and all of a sudden your shoelace is stuck on the foot peg because you didn't notice or you didn't mean to, it might cause for some panic, and it could be a hazardous situation. So if you have shoelaces, tuck them in, get them out of the way so that if you need to get out of the kayak, it'll be very easy and it won't get caught in anything. But that's one of the reasons we really like booties that either have a zipper or maybe they have some Velcro and can tighten down on your foot. I know a lot of people just wear water socks and they're happy with those. Especially in the summer, is wear something on your feet, because if you do capsize and there's rocks beneath you, it's very easy to get cut on something. Tips 421 and Sam Kigyos both said the same thing. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your handles. I'm trying to read them, and I'm not sure exactly how you would pronounce them. Please comment back if you'd like. But they have us with a question of what is the silly question. What in the world is paddling mixtape and the story behind it? So when I was trying to think of a hashtag that would go with the Kayak Hipster account, I kept thinking back to junior high school, when we used to make mixtapes for everything. So road trip mixtape, a girl I liked mixtape, anything that had a feeling that I wanted to relate to, I would throw songs together, and and sometimes later on in years I would find the tape again and I would put it on, and I would remember exactly what I was thinking and what I was feeling when I put those certain songs together. And so then I was thinking, what if we had a visual gallery of paddling that did the same thing? And I felt like, as if Kayak Hipster started growing and people started sharing their photos with me, how cool would it be to have a gallery that for non-paddlers, if they typed in paddling mixtape, it would give them that mood of why we all go and paddle. And I love that it's been wonderful that so many people are adding their photos to the gallery, because we get anything from stand-up paddling to whitewater to sea kayaking, beautiful sunsets, camping, all sorts of types, styles, and activities related to paddling in some way, that I sometimes just go through that gallery and it puts me in a good mood. It gets me motivated to either build another boat, test more equipment, or just get out on the weekend, even on days that you think, all right, I'm beat. Nope, look at some of those pictures, look at some of the wonderful locations people are paddling all around the world, and it makes you want to get down to your launch site and go paddle for a while. So those are the questions for this week. I'm thinking, if there's questions this good each week, I will try my best, do a very short video, answer some questions. Hopefully that helped. Please comment if you want further clarification, of if you have follow-up questions. I'm more than happy to help. I hope that was helpful. Let's talk soon. Cheers.